Hey, what's up, everybody? Mike back here with your week 3 update. So first of all, before I get going into that, I do want to comment. Sorry, no Alicia video this week. For those that don't know, I'm also a high school science teacher, and last week for us was finals, end of the semester stuff. So schedules got a little bit busy. I didn't have time to film and edit that video. So I promise she will be back next week. I know she's most of your favorite part of this series, so I'm sorry. But yeah, no, she will be back next week. We'll get back into the weight room, kind of start seeing how that progression is gonna look, and kind of look at some of the importance of why we're doing this. So, all right. But for this week, week 3, it was recovery week. Not a whole lot to really go over with regards to like the week that was. We can look at, like, yeah, we had some easy days in there. We had one really hard workout, I guess you could call it. It was kind of a medium-ish hard workout, the progression run. But I think that's a good place to start because it really showed the benefits of having some rest and recovery. Okay, so we got about midweek. We had a little bit of time to rest and recover. And going into it, my plan was to kind of start off as a nice, easy recovery pace and then work my way down to probably about 5:30, maybe 5:40, somewhere in there. Not really paying attention to my watch, just kind of going off of feel and effort. I kind of looked back at it and I was like, oh, I actually dipped down into like the 5:15, 5:20 range. So that just shows that, yeah, my legs are feeling good, ready to go, feeling great after this last week, really kind of itching to get going into this next week. Talking to my wife during the long run the other day, I was asking, like, hey, how you feeling? And she was like, oh man, I'm feeling great. Can next week be a recovery week too? Just because, she was feeling so good after this week. So, and that kind of leads us into the other big effort for the week, which once you hear me talk about it, you'll hear it's like, oh, it wasn't really that big of an effort, the long run. So again, like we've been kind of doing the alternating, on the trail week, road week. This was a trail week. We went out there and it was just time on the feet, right? This is a recovery week, so there wasn't really any big goal of like, oh, I need to hit this pace, I need to do that. It was just, we're gonna go in the park, we're gonna go to Annandale, we're gonna spend 2 hours in there. That's all we're gonna care about. Okay, we didn't care about pace, we didn't care about effort. It was just time on the feet. And I do want to say it was really, really good because by the time that we were done, we finished and we were like, oh, that just felt like an aerobic run. Like, it didn't feel like a big effort. Granted, if you look at our pace, we were running about 2 minutes per mile slower than we would for a normal aerobic run on the roads. So that just shows like how easy it was for us. But the really good thing and the really, exciting thing is we did get out there and we're like, hey, 2 hours felt fine, right? We're going to go out there and run for three plus hours in a race. Want to have that mentality and that psychological aspect of it, like, oh yeah, that's fine, 2 hours and I'm feeling just chilling, right? So that's kind of really where we were at with that. Okay, so that's the week that was, and because there wasn't a whole lot there, I do want to take a quick minute here and talk about the recovery time and looking at what we can utilize with technology to help enhance and improve those recovery weeks, or even just the training weeks in general leading into those. So I've got a Garmin 245. It's a GPS watch. I would kind of put this into the midline GPS watches in terms of like wearable technology and whatnot. There are some cheaper ones out there that give you just bare bones GPS data, distance, time, pace, that's it. You can also go up to some of the higher end ones and then give you all sorts of more metrics. But my thought is, even as somebody with a background in physiology and a background in biomechanics, most of those metrics don't mean a whole lot. Okay, a lot of those metrics might give you some data, but what's the purpose of that data? What's the reason behind it? How can you utilize it in your training? It's a little bit more questionable. Okay, I stick with the 245, like I said, kind of more that mid-range wearable technology, because there's a couple of key metrics that I really enjoy utilizing. Okay, I'm going to talk about 2 of them today, and then if you guys are curious, I can talk about some more of them later on. But the kind of 2 key ones that I want to focus on today, one of them is something called training load. Okay, training load is super useful when we're looking at how hard our body's working in training. Okay, we can start looking at, how much stress is going on in the body a couple of different ways. Okay, the one that a lot of runners use, and I feel like is only part of the picture, is mileage, right? Mileage is how many miles you ran in a week. Pretty easy to look at. But if we think about it, if we go and run a 5-mile run, we get a stress on the body, right? If we go and we just do a 5-mile recovery run, it's a relatively low stress on the body. If we go out there and run 5 miles worth of intervals, that is a much higher, much different stress on the body. Okay, and so what we can do is we can take the intensity of the workout times the duration or the distance of the workout, and that gives us total training load. Okay, so looking at this last recovery week, my mileage was about the same as it was the week before. I think I was only about 3 or 4 miles shy of the week before. But if we look at the actual training load and the amount of stress put on the body, it was like near half, maybe, a little bit more, maybe 2/3, but much smaller. Same mileage, very different training load. Okay. When we start getting the training load up too high for too long, that's where we start running into overtraining, injuries, things of those sorts. If we have that training load too low, then we start kind of detraining a little bit, and becoming less and less fit, right? So having that total training load of both mileage and intensity, that kind of gives us that value that's really important. Okay. The other value that I really like to utilize in this, and it's kind of nice because heart rate variability is a very useful tool physiologically. Okay. Sometimes it's one of those values that you look at and conceptually it may or may not make as much sense. And so certain companies like Garmin, there's other ones out there that give you more specific values like Whoop or whatnot. But they take heart rate variability. And for those that aren't familiar with heart rate variability, what that entails is the distance between your heart rates vary a certain amount. Okay, and you might think conceptually like, okay, if I'm looking at my heart rate and it says it's 60 beats per minute, there's 1 second between every beat, right? Well, kind of close. It might be 1.1 seconds, it might be 0.9 seconds, it might be 1.0 seconds, but it varies just a little bit. And your body should be able to vary that slightly because your vitals, like your heart rate and blood pressure and things like that, adjust depending on what the stress is put on the body. If our body is fresh and recovered and ready to go, it'll vary a little bit more because it's more apt to change to those stresses more rapidly. Okay, if you're fatigued, you're tired, your body's just run down, it has a harder time making those fine adjustments, and so that variability goes down, and the distance between your heart rates becomes more consistent. Okay, so again, we want a higher variability. It's a good thing. And what Garmin does, and it's really interesting, is they've taken that idea of heart rate variability, and rather than just giving you this value, they've taken it and they've given it more of an arbitrary number that's more easy to conceptualize all the time. Okay, they call it their body battery, and it's just a ranking of 0 to 100. 100 means you're fully topped off, you're ready to go. 0 means you're done, you're fatigued, you need to take a nap. And most of the day, I'm kind of somewhere in between, okay? And this is more than just your training load. This is your daily stress, okay? So if we have, you get up in the morning, fully recharged, you start going to work, you start having stress on the body, psychological stress even, it starts kind of go down, maybe take a nap in the middle of the day and it'll come back up again, and then maybe you go for your workout and it comes back down again, and you sleep in the middle of the night and it comes all the way back up. Okay, and so we can measure and see that amount of fatigue and or rest and recovery. So that's the other one that I really like to use because I can utilize it and look at it and be like, oh man, I'm really fatigued today. Maybe I need to push the big workout back a day. Who knows? Or I can look back at it and be like, oh man, I didn't have a great workout. Oh, I was fatigued going into it. I didn't pay attention. Okay, that's fine. It gives me a little bit more psychological confidence there. Okay, be like, okay, I got through the workout. It wasn't, great situation, but I got through it. Things of those sorts. So those are the two main things I wanted to talk about today. All right, so let's go back to the training, the reflection for the week. So let's get back into the normal rigmarole. First one, the good. It was recovery week. How can that go bad? I got to rest, recover. I feel great. All my metrics are showing that I'm fully recovered, ready to go for this next week. I'm super excited for this next week of training. I'm itching to the bit to get going on some of these fast efforts again. So awesome. The bad, knee's still a little bit buggy. Again, it's getting better and better each week. It's at the point where it doesn't affect my running at all. I don't need to adjust my training really. My mechanics are staying the same. It's just it's a nagging thing more than anything else. When I'm running, it warms up. It feels great. When I'm not running, it gets a little bit tight. It gets a little bit sore. Alicia's kind of doing her thing. We're working through it. We got a game plan. And again, like I said, it's getting better each week. That's why I'm not super concerned about it. If it was staying the same or if it was getting worse, I might be a little bit more concerned. But it's getting better. It's just a very slow getting better. And so that's just the frustrating part about it. But we're kind of monitoring it. We're getting through it. What's the big goal for next week? My big goal, like I mentioned, I'm a high school science teacher, and we just went from having a very scheduled, structured day to being on summer break. And for me, one of the big things that I need to focus on now is my nutrition and eating habits. When I was in school, I had, get up, have breakfast, go to work, have lunch, do some work in the afternoon, come home, have a snack, and it was very regimented of like, this is how my day goes. And so I have those times for me to eat. I'm one of these people, I'm going to say this and you're going to be like, that's weird. I don't understand how you can do this. But if I don't have it scheduled into my day, sometimes I forget to eat. And it's not because I'm like, oh, calories bad. No, it's just, I get sidetracked doing other things and I look at the clock and I'm like, oh, it's 4:00. I forgot to have lunch, like type thing. It's just my mind goes other places. So my big goal for this week is really to keep going on some sort of regimented schedule so that I remember to eat and I can focus on getting the nutrition that I need, especially going into a big week this week of training. So, all right, that's all I got for this week. If you guys have any questions, comments, down in the comments. Also, if you're interested in my training on a more regular basis, follow me on Strava. I'll put the link down in the thing below. Other than that, have a great week and happy running. Okay, bye.